Hey everyone, what's up and welcome to the channel. Today we are back and we're going to be talking about some tips and tricks for every single faction in XDefiant. I think a common misconception in this game is that there is a best faction, a best class, and in my opinion, after my time playing with each faction, I just don't know if that's true. Obviously there are certain abilities that are pretty strong, but in my opinion, each faction serves as a specific role that you're going to be filling in pubs, but more importantly in the rank side of XDefiant. And it is very important that you have a well-balanced squad because each class has strengths and weaknesses that they thrive but also don't excel at. So yeah, we're gonna get into each class, we're gonna break down all their abilities, and I'm gonna kind of give my little tips and tricks and opinions on their abilities and their situation based timings. Yeah, hopefully help you out and make you a little bit better at XDefiant, and maybe even help you narrow down which class you want to play as and main in this game. First up, we're gonna get into the cleaners, and the cleaners are a really good class. I feel like they've been growing in popularity a lot. I'm definitely starting to see more and more of them since the launch of this game, and it's for good reason. They are an extremely offensive class. I would say the role that this class holds is more of like an initiator. They just pack a bunch of damage, and if you and your squad need to make your way through enemy lines and actually get to a point, to hold a point or any form of objective, the cleaners are going to be ones to do so. Starting off with their passive, they have incendiary rounds. These guys thrive up close. Obviously the passive gives you more damage and a burn effect to your bullets, which can kill people even after you've been killed, but it does also reduce the range on your bullets. So these guys are, I mean, you can use ARs, you can use any weapon, but once again, the range is reduced, so you're going to be most effective up close. Getting into the ultimate ability, which is the Purifier. This thing, once again, also requires you to be up close, which is pretty easy to do with the cleaners tactical abilities, but this is a flamethrower. Anybody you look at essentially within a 20-meter radius just dies. And getting into the tacticals, these are the two different play styles that you can kind of work around with the cleaners based on what you find most comfortable or most useful based on the game mode's objective and situation. First up, we got the incinerator drone. The incinerator drone is kind of like, you know, it's just a drone but with a bomb on it, and it drags fire out the back. So anything that gets in the way of this drone that shoots fire is just going to insta die if you get touched by it. It's pretty plain and simple. It's very strong, it has a decent range, but it does only travel in a straight line, and you kind of have to directly hit someone. So it can be effective for, you know, doorways, narrow lines of sight, you know, clearing off angles and following up past the drone. But overall, I think that this is the less popular ability because the other ability, Firebomb, is just absolutely insane, and I think ties into the natural playstyle of cleaners a little bit better. The Firebomb is just chucking a molly at your feet, and anybody within a large circle radius just dies instantly. The moment you throw it, they just die. And I think that this is great, especially in modes like Occupy, where you gotta rush an actual hard point. Anybody in it, even if there's like 5 people on the point, you can kill them all at the click of a single button. So yeah, the cleaners, these guys, in terms of tips and tricks, I definitely recommend playing up close. I definitely recommend the Firebomb and learning to be able to weasel your way through situations and not be afraid to take risks and jumping on impossible to live situations, because with the use of their abilities, you can really make big plays. Once again, this faction can be defined as initiators. Your job is to take objective, clear the path, and allow your team to follow. This isn't going to be the best defensive faction, but they definitely have some defensive qualities. But know your place, know your role, and try to fulfill that and time your abilities based on those situations accordingly. Speaking of defense though, we're going to talk about the Phantoms, because the Phantoms faction is honestly, they're really good. But once again, all these factions are really good, but the Phantoms are really good at defense. In terms of the faction's definitive role, I mean, once again, it's pretty straightforward. They are made to defend objectives, defend space, and allow you to peek angles you wouldn't normally be able to peek with the use of their one-way shields. Getting into the Phantom's ultimate ability, they have the Aegis, which is basically a massive shotgun with a giant dome shield around you. You can't sprint while using this ability, but anybody who enters your dome shield, you can one tap with your shotgun. This is an incredible zone control and defensive tool when you need to defend from enemy squads pushing in and taking your site. You can have your entire team sit in the dome with you and shoot outwards of the dome to protect anybody from pushing you. You basically have an unpushable fortress, and if anybody does get in, they're just getting shotgun. This is also great for defense when stealing objectives. If you were to have one of your cleaners make space to get onto an objective's point and then pop your ultimate, you could then defend it really, really well from any crazy aggro people trying to push you and get you off their point immediately. You can just blast them away with your shotgun. The passive on this class is also really, really good. They have an additional 20 health, which just makes them the highest HP class in the entire game. Obviously, Libertad has some capabilities, but as just base HP, they are going to be healthier than anybody else you go against. But moving on now, we're going to talk about the tactical abilities, because the first one is Mag Barrier. This thing is just insane. You can shoot it in front of you, behind you, wherever you see fit, and it's a one-way shield. So anybody who is looking at you can't shoot you, but you can shoot them. Whether you throw down and someone ends up popping out from behind you, you can hop on the other side of the shield. It shoots both ways for you, and it doesn't really matter, like which way you shoot through it. It's just a one-way shield. So it's very powerful. It's a good defensive tool at keeping people off of your sight, and in addition to that, it's decent at taking space to allow your cleaners to maybe have a better angle to use their abilities to push up and take space. But it's not a great offensive tool, but it does have some qualities and capabilities in it. And moving on, we also have the Blitz Riot Shield, which is it's finicky, okay? I'm not gonna say it's fantastic. It's definitely a unique playstyle. I struggle to find a lot of success with it when going against really, really good players, but it does have some potential. You can get some kills with it. When you chase somebody down, it can make them panic, and it can be decent, but I just don't think it could ever replace how effective the Mag Barrier is personally. So yeah, in terms of tips and tricks for the class's abilities, I mean, I really like to use the ultimate offensively. When I'm taking a point, it is crazy how many people will ego push you and how many like high kill feeds you can kind of rack up with the ultimate. The Mag Barrier is definitely the go-to choice. This thing is just a really sturdy tool all around, but the only thing I recommend you be aware of is the use of people's EMP grenades. These EMP grenades instantly take out the Mag Barriers, and it can be pretty annoying if you're constantly losing your tactical. Another tip with the Mag Barrier is sometimes I like to corner myself in really, really tightly so people don't have a lot of space to outplay me on my shield and push me. If you're in a corner and you put the Mag Shield right at your feet, you're basically like a high damage target with 120 HP on top of the shield. It just makes you really difficult to get to, and the closer the Mag Shield is to you and the further it is away from the open, the less chance of an EMP grenade hitting it is. But yeah, play defensively, fall into your role, and you shouldn't have any problems with the Phantom class. Next up, we have Libertad. Libertad is the healing squad. They almost have defensive and offensive qualities mixed together, like hybrided really well. I would say that the Libertad is a class that has been, I would say, falling in popularity. I haven't seen as many of Libertads as I have of the other classes now that the game's been out for 2 days, but it's one class I've quickly realized has a pretty high skill gap because there aren't a lot of effective healers. Healing you is important, but being able to manage your teammates and keep them healthy as well is the difference maker and game changer, especially in ranked games. There's actually a lot of voice comms throughout the matches from the characters when they become low health, saying any medics around, anybody got a heal, and they're screaming out for their Libertads who don't seem to ever be providing you with them. So that is what I'm going to define this faction's role as: the medic, which it's clearly its role. It's got healing abilities, but it does have great offensive and defensive capabilities. First of which, the ultimate, the Medico Supremo, is honestly a cool name. This is great at making offensive pushes when you need to hold space that you otherwise wouldn't be able to survive in if you didn't have an absurd amount of health to chow people with. And on top of that, its defensive capabilities just make points impossible to push if you and your teammates are coordinated while on this ultimate. If everybody has double the health, you are going to be able to out damage the opponents before you die no matter what. So effective timing of this ability is more so important than where you use it, because if you use it and nobody ever peeks you, then it's just kind of gonna go to waste. Moving on to the passive ability though, this is the Espiritu de Libertad. I hope I said that right. The contagious spirit of the freedom slowly heals you and nearby allies. So when you are nearby your teammates, it allows the auto heal regen to kick in, and it's really effective. It's something you have to pay attention to when your teammates are low, but it can make for some really quick recoveries off of damage and allow you to re-engage and re-push the enemy without having too much dead time. Getting into the tacticals though, we have two options: El Remedio and a Biovita boost. El Remedio is the ability where you throw down a healing pack on the floor, and it basically acts as a soft version of the ultimate. The El Remedio is better for game modes like Occupy rather than Payload, because the payload constantly moves, and if the payload is moving, that means your El Remedio is becoming out of range by the second, and it's just not going to be as effective as a tool as the Biovita boost, which is just a self heal, which you pop and any teammates around you when you pop it also get the heal. This is a bit more mobile of a tool, and like I said, it just kind of plays into the game mode you're playing and what situation you find best. The El Remedio tool is really nice because you get multiple use cases out of it for the duration of the ability. If you take damage, you can heal up. You leave it, you take more damage, you can go back and heal up again. And it's also a little bit easier to use for your teammates because your teammates don't need to depend on you clicking a button and being close to you. They could just go find the healing pool and get on it themselves. But the Biovita boost, I will say, is a very powerful tool. You can heal multiple people inside of this little healing pocket, and if you can activate it in a clutch situation, it can allow you to advance a push while on the fly, not having to stop, not having to wait for the charge up. It is almost instantaneous, the benefits of this ability. So yeah, in terms of tips and tricks with the meta class, I would say, you know, paying attention to your own health and keeping yourself healthy is a skill. But in addition to that, if you can limit the usage on yourself to save it for clutch moments when you can benefit off of multiple teammates getting healed at the same time, I think that's where you can find some real success and pushes in objective based modes. And the other tip I got is specifically for the El Remedio ability, which is the one you throw down that creates a healing pool. Make sure you get really efficient at understanding the cooldown management on this ability. You have the option of canceling it if nobody is using it, but regardless, if you cancel it or wait for it to fully deplete, once it's done, it starts a whole new timer that you kind of have to wait through in order to get your entire ability back again. Making sure that you cancel this thing in advance rather than just letting it bleed through until the very end of its 30-second life duration can assure you have this ability as much as possible. So cooldown management is very important with Libertad. But moving on though, we're going to the Echelon class. This is my favorite class in the game right now. Currently, I think it just provides for some really unique playstyles. The abilities that this class offers are completely different playstyles. And if I were to sum this faction's playstyle and role up, it would definitely be strictly offense. I don't think that this class has many defensive capabilities, maybe some very slight ones, but this is for your gunnies, bro. The people who can shoot on your squad want to be using this class. This class is constantly in the forward, in the lean. They're not initiators like the cleaners and going to be pushing through brunt force, but they are constantly on the flank, being hidden and looking to make picks, to make big plays, whether it's defensively for your team to have less to worry about on their push, to get the picks and weasel behind teams to eliminate some targets and allow your team to push in easier, or maybe even take out the whole squad. We're gonna get into the ultimate on this class, which is the sonar goggles. The sonar goggles, you've seen this a bunch. I mean, they're really effective. It's the pistol that pretty much one taps anything it sees at range. It's like a 2-tap, and they have wall hacks. This is extremely easy of a tool to be able to infiltrate smart, because you have everybody on wall hacks. You know how to peek effectively and just clear out what feels like a bare minimum of like 2 to 3 kills every single time you use this ability. In terms of the passive, this is a really powerful passive in this game. It's the low profile, where this character doesn't appear on enemy radars ever. They just never appear on the radar. So I know a lot of people have actually been struggling to use the radar in XDefiant. It's definitely a tip I have for you to get good at spotting red dots, but Echelon just never appears, so you don't really have to worry about that while using this class. In terms of its abilities, we have the Intel suit, which is essentially wall hacks. You hit the button, and every 30 seconds you're going to be able to see anybody who is around you, including your teammates being able to see them. It's one of the best tacticals in the game right now. It's straight up wall hacks. I don't really need to get into it any further. It just allows for extreme frag potential and to wipe massive amounts of targets. This playstyle is very offensive, but once again aids in some defensive capabilities and being able to anticipate enemies smartly. And getting into the other tactical is the ghillie suit. It's a favorite of mine, I'm not gonna lie. Not a lot of people use it because they love the Intel suit, but the ghillie suit allows for one of the most unique playstyles in the game. This thing does make you visible when you are ADSing and when you are moving around, or at least more visible while in the invis state. And if I were to give you some tips and tricks based on the ghillie suit, it would definitely be to learn to crouch walk a lot, like a lot, because when you're crouch walking, you're a lot less noticeable. I never ADS unless I'm ready to pull the trigger, and a lot of times I run around invis because from range, I mean, a lot of people just don't shoot you when you're really far away in invis, but when I do approach corners where I know people are on the other side, that is when I crouch and crouch walk around the corner to peek, or I just sit there if I know they're coming, because you are completely or almost completely invisible while not moving. This makes for a really fun playstyle. I almost can guarantee a free kill every single life because of this ghillie suit. It's one of the best abilities to flank teams and get picks with because of how stealthy it is. People really do sleep on this ability. It is a skill gap ability. You have to know how to use it properly, because if you're not using it properly, it can be fairly useless. And in terms of tips and tricks for the Intel suit, make sure you're just using it when you're up close to enemies. I mean, if you're using it from too far away, you're not going to be getting any scans, or you're going to be wasting half the duration of your tactical ability. And overall, just play very stealthy, flanky, and offensive with Echelon. Once again, not to the point where you're brute forcing it through enemies, because that's not what they thrive at. They don't have extra damage, they don't have extra health, but play around the action. You never want to be playing on the objective. I mean, sometimes you can get away with it being invisible on it if you're not moving, just to buy some time, but chances are if you're in that case, it's not going to end well for you and you're probably surrounded. But yeah, in terms of summing up the playstyle, it's very stealthy, very flanky, always on the offensive, and not to the extent where you're brute forcing it through enemies, because once again, this class doesn't have extra damage like the cleaners, and it doesn't have extra health like the phantoms, but you are always on the hunt to get picks. And when it comes to playing objective, you never want to be directly on the objective, because that's where you are weakest. You want to be supporting from the shadows, getting picks and aiding in the enemy push being weaker, or aiding in your teammates pushes being stronger. And if you do need to play on the point, I mean, sometimes it can be really effective to just sit there invisible while all your teammates fight, because when someone actually does finally get through, you can be there to just pick them off out of the shadows or out of the cloak, man. So yeah, Echelon is a really good class. And to finish this all off, this is going to fall onto Dedsec, the unlockable class, which you have to earn 700,000 experience for in order to get. I just got it yesterday. Honestly, it took quite a bit of time. I think I have like 9 hours total playtime in game, so it takes you a little while, but this class is it's a bit of a mixed bag. It does have a very definitive role, and when it comes to defining this faction's purpose, it's what I would call the counter class or the utility management class. It honestly has a lot of use, and I think this class specifically will thrive most in the ranked playlist when that does come out in season 1, hopefully. But it's just a little bit finicky using Dedsec, because unless other teams are using their utility, you don't really have anything to counter. And so if you don't have anything to counter, then you don't really have any ability to begin with. But I'm not here to dog on the class. I'm just here to point out how niche and kind of specific use case this class can be. First up, getting into the ultimate of this class, they have Lockout. It disables the enemy's HUD, minimap, and abilities in an affected area. This is honestly a pretty useful defensive tool. A lot of times if you're playing a hard point and occupy and a team is pushing you, you can pop this ability and it makes defending a lot safer because the enemy won't be able to use a lot of their larger utility because you have disabled the entire playing area. Moving on, we're gonna get into the passive, which is Fabricator. A very underrated and potentially one of the most powerful passives in the game. Anytime you use any of your utility on this class, after a short duration, you actually regenerate utility back. So if I use an EMP grenade, after I think it's 15 seconds, you'll have another EMP grenade ready to go and use again. No other class in the game is capable of this, and I honestly think EMP grenades are specifically really good on Dedsec, because if you run into enemy utility multiple times, it's a great way to continue to disable enemy teams, which kind of ties into the rest of this class's kit. The tactical abilities are very interesting and very annoying. The spider bot to start is a really griefy tool. This thing, you throw it on the floor, and if you want to, you can follow it. It'll lead you right to an enemy. A lot of times it won't go for the closest enemy. It kind of has a mind of its own. I sometimes been killed following it, but it'll hop on someone's face, it'll stun them and give you a free kill. If you kill the person it's running at, you can actually just continue to follow it and it'll follow someone else. There is a way to counter the spider bot, but overall it's a griefy tool. Will it be competitively the best tool? I just don't think so. I think the other ability, Hijack, is where this class is going to really thrive in a ranked playlist. The ability to look at any other team's utility and convert it into your own. You can hack their utility. This is great on the Phantom's Meg Shield. The Meg Shield, anytime I see one of these things, I just hack it, and enemies still try to shoot me through a shield that's no longer theirs, and I take no damage and they die. So it's a really good tool. You can also use this on Libertad's healing ability that they throw onto the floor. If they have a little healing pool, you can convert that so it will no longer heal them, and even become a healing ability that you can use for you and your team. This is going to be a great way to counter a lot of the metas that we do end up seeing in ranked play, and I think will maybe even be one of the most powerful classes in ranked play. If I could give you guys a couple of tips and tricks on the Dedsec class, specifically when it comes to the spider bot, there is a tip I have to counter the spider bot if you're going against it, and that's you never have to shoot the spider bot if you don't need to. If you don't have a clear shot, there's no point panic aiming around your screen to try to shoot this thing before it hits you. When the spider bot does jump up to you and go to attack you, you can actually just melee and it'll swat the spider bot away. That's more of a tip for all the other classes though, because I mean, Dedsec will probably rarely ever get hit by another spider bot, but I mean, I guess you could say it's still possible. But like I already said earlier, following your spider bot is a great way to hunt down multiple kills in one usage of the tactical ability, saving that final stun for someone who is maybe aggressing you. And another tip for the hijack ability, it's something you have to be careful for when using the hijack. It's something I definitely experienced. It doesn't go through walls, and so a lot of times when you are hacking Meg shields, if you're close or if people are already peeking it, you have to be staring at the actual ability in your line of sight in order to hack it. So if there is somebody there and somebody's shooting at you, you almost have to finesse it and like dodge some bullets and survive while hacking, which makes the ability a lot less effective. I really hope that in the future they make it so that as long as you look in the direction of an ability, even if it's through a wall, it'll still hack it. I think it's fair considering the overall effectiveness of this class in pubs. But yeah, I would define the Dedsec's faction role as the hackers. I mean, this is a class you can really use at any time. It's not really a true defensive or offensive class. I think the ultimate does provide a lot of defensive utility. It's kind of just a hybrid. I just use it at all times whenever you see fit. There's really no bad time to hack an enemy and turn a disadvantaged situation into a advantaged one. So yeah, that is some tips on every single faction in XDefiant. I kind of went over all the abilities and just gave a little bit of insight after having some playtime with every single one of the classes. I've played all of these classes in beta. I've been playing them on launch, and I do enjoy all of them. Would I say there is a specific best faction in XDefiant? Once again, no, I don't really think so. I think they all serve specific roles and purposes on a squad that are going to thrive more in certain situations than others, but whether or not you like the situation they thrive in is going to be up to you. That's kind of what makes everybody unique, your playstyle. Whatever your playstyle is what I think you should invest into, because being able to naturally play into a faction's routine is going to make you the most effective player. Me personally, I really like being aggressive. That's why I like playing Echelon. I like constantly playing off of objective, hunting for kills, going for picks, and being able to make that an effective strategy and play style with this class is just really fun. So yeah, I hope these tips and tricks with all the factions helped you guys out. Let me know which faction you guys have been sticking to or are thinking about maining after hearing all these play styles. And yeah, I hope to see you guys over on my Twitch as well. Link to that will be in the description. I do stream there every day. We will be playing tons more XDefiant and posting lots more videos here on the channel. So if you guys don't want to miss those, make sure you guys subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on notifications, because then you actually get notified when the videos go up. And yeah, leave a like on the video. It doesn't really do anything for the video, but it lets me know that you guys actually enjoyed it if you did enjoy it. And that's gonna do it, man. So I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and I hope to see you guys next time in the next video. But yeah, take care, keep up, stay up. Peace out.